Salute, salute, salute. It's your boy Guillermo Kiyosuke back at you again with another sportscaster clutch points article breakdown discussion. Sim right now, he's with on his channel on Sportscaster going over Coach's Corner. So please go subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and go give it a view. Support the algorithms. He's doing a Coach's Corner on Mitchell Robinson, everybody's favorite young Nick Ty, the hater love. So again, go and support that video. But here we're gonna be talking about. He's gonna be out 15 minutes late, so I'm just gonna be talking about some random stuff with regards to some of these clutch points articles. Obviously, Michael Jordan comes out. He's talking about social media era and talks about super teams. Salute to everybody living the good life. Stephen Fox, my guy. Salute, 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 salute. I'm also gonna talk about some Amare Stoudamire's joining the Brooklyn Nets coaching staff, as if that's gonna make a difference. And you also got Shaq making fun of Dwight Howard, which I love. I know people say it's petty or whatnot, but I love it. I love it. If Dwight's going to get up there and start crying, acting like he won an Oscar or a Grammy, like he was a great contributor, a guy that was supposed to be, had the physical abilities to be an all-time great, and basically as good as he was, people could argue that he underachieved. And so, let's get to it. So with the Michael Jordan comes out. Yes, Manchester United is playing well. And I'm going to talk to you guys after a little bit because I want to see who'll be interested in me covering some Manchester United games. I want to cover that Manchester United game with PSG. They play Chelsea tomorrow, an important, huge game. So definitely want to see if you guys are interested. For my soccer fans, you don't have to be Manchester United. So here's what Michael Jordan had to say in an hour-long interview with the Cigar Aficionado, which I actually watched too. It's actually pretty interesting. I don't even smoke cigars, but for some reason, watching that with the dude, I think the dude is Cuban. The dude that runs, I think he's Cuban. Makes me want to smoke cigars for some reason. But and here he talking with the guy from a Cigar Aficionado. He said, Michael Jordan, by the way, he said, Tiger Woods played at his peak somewhere toward the end of my career. Then what changed from time frame to now is social media, Twitter, and all those type of things. And that has invaded the personalities and personal time of individuals. It's to the point where some people have been able to utilize it to the financial gain and things of that nature. But for someone like myself, and this is what Tiger deals with, I don't know if I could have survived in this Twitter era where you don't have the privacy that you want, and what seems to be very innocent can be always misinterpreted. And I actually agree wholeheartedly with what he was saying about that, because in this era, it seems like people are more concerned with social media, more concerned with the image versus playing, right? Michael Jordan came from a very strong family background. The father, rest in peace, was, really, really on Michael Jordan. The brothers be extremely competitive in everything they do, play psychological games with them. He comes from a way different era than what we see now. And I actually miss that era because it was more about greatness. It was more about what's inside of you, right? So people like to talk about Michael Jordan and, always compare him to LeBron James. The thing about Michael Jordan, what I like is that even if you didn't like him, even if you didn't like playing with him, as some people try to make it seem like, oh, he's the worst person to play with, what I like about Michael Jordan was that he found the best in you, whether you liked it or not. Now, we can all sit here and say, oh, Michael Jordan was a jerk. I wouldn't like to play with him, blah, blah. But what I like about somebody is that sometimes in our lives, it can build up from whatever it may be. Maybe your parents don't give you that oomph, that battery in your back to be better than what you are. Maybe sometimes the environment around you puts you down. One thing I respect about Michael Jordan was that he basically said, all right, even if you don't want to be the best for a long time or for all your life, when you play with me, you're going to have to be your best, and let's see where you go from there. Let's just see where you go from there. From you playing at your apex, your top best that you can be in your life. Let's see where that takes you. Now, if you don't want to do that for the rest of your life, fair enough. When you're playing with me, Michael Jordan, you got to be at the best. And it might make you a better person. Look, Steve Kerr, who was a bit player with that team, he's a coach of the Warriors. Won a championship. You can say and tell me what him playing with Michael Jordan didn't shape him up to be that? Scottie Pippen, one of the greatest players of all time, had that with Michael Jordan. People don't remember. Scottie Pippen got traded by Seattle Supersonics to the Bulls. So Scottie Pippen was in this can't miss prospect, and he had to develop under that team. Everybody's like, oh, when Scottie Pippen got there his first year, averaged 8.5 points, I believe, from the bench. He's a big time player his first year. So that's why I respect Michael Jordan, man. You can't. The thing about guys like LeBron James and some of these other guys, and I'm not trying to issue on anybody in particular. I think with this era is that you don't. This is why Jimmy Butler is such a breath of fresh air, because you see a guy who he put his all into it to try to make himself the best that he could be. A half-assed Jimmy Butler is not taking that Heat team to the finals. It's just not a bunch of undrafted rookies. Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, both those guys came in the first bit. Contributors like Duncan Robinson, Kendrick Nunn, especially in the regular season. Those guys don't make the finals without a Jimmy Butler. Without a Jimmy Butler playing to his best. You know what I mean? There's a reason why you love Kobe. Because it wasn't because of his attitude, because a lot of people hated Kobe. The reason why you love Kobe was because of his work ethic. Because every time you saw Kobe on the court, he gave it his all, even when he was being greedy and selfish. And you saw with Kobe, it was for him to put the best into his ability to even try to be such an ISO player, even if it was not good team basketball, right? It was in his heart to say, you know what? I'm going to go on this road. I might go it alone stupidly, but I'm going to try to be the best at what I am, right? You don't hear excuses from them. That's why I love Jordan. You don't hear excuses from Jordan not being able to beat the Celtics, not being able to beat the Pistons at the time. You know what I mean? LeBron James, you hear excuses here and there. They got to go and get people on sports media to say this and that about them. For what? I'm watching the game, LeBron. You won the finals. After the finals, you try to say, oh, you hurt your hand and you wore some BS wrap around your hand to make it seem like you were truly hurt, when literally that night you were seen giving high fives and all that stuff to your kids and all that stuff. Come on, bro. This is why some people don't respect LeBron James as a GOAT, because it's not the fact that, not necessarily the fact that you didn't win, but it's the fact that you don't take accountability. Like, where's a hero's trial? You know what I mean? Where's a true hero's trial with LeBron James, right? Where's that? You don't see it with him. So he always wants to be the guy at the top, but it's like, did you work your way up there? Not saying you haven't put in hard work, but it's like you played with some of the best players, right? And you force your way to play with some of the best players. But then you want people to compare you to Jordan. It's like, nah, those people, that's a different hero's trial. You got a nice hero's trial too, don't get me wrong, but those guys were from the mud in terms of work their way up. Now, obviously, Kobe played with Shaq, right? Jordan's in a different echelon, right? It's him, Kareem, Magic, people say Oscar Robertson, all that stuff. So, I mean, it is what it is. So back to what else Jordan said. When he talking about super teams, he said, I think you want to be able to have a competitive balance in the league. Jordan said via Cigar Aficionado on YouTube, whatever. And if a player is able to choose and determine what team he plays for, then you are going to have some talent discrepancy in the league. So if everybody wants to go to Chicago, then all the best players are going to be in Chicago. You're starting to see a little bit of it now where all the stars try to get together on the same team. But I think it's going to hurt the overall aspect of the league from a competitive standpoint. Only one or two teams will be great, and the other 28 will be garbage. Now, salute to everybody in the chat. Mike Morgan, Stephen Fox, living the good life. MH, salute. And I agree with him to a sense, but you also have to realize he's playing in an extremely small market, right? He's playing in Charlotte. No one really wants to go there, right? I mean, it's Charlotte. And he's been running a really bad ship. As great as Jordan was as a player, he's a terrible GM or a terrible owner in regards to team building, right? But he has a good point. Look, he's talking about parity, where essentially a lot of these teams, a lack of competitiveness, right? It hurts the league, right? When you have a solid 8-10 teams who all challenge for the title. I'm not talking about get to the play. I'm talking about challenge for the title. You have a stronger league. You have more fans. You're gonna have fans in Indiana. You're gonna have fans in Miami. You're gonna have fans in Sacramento. You're gonna have people all over the place, and that's where you create so-called legendary teams. I mean, if the Kings won, they would have been a legendary team. Just winning one, just because it was the Kings, it was fun to watch them play. Even when the so-called championship time, they didn't even have Mike Williams, white chocolate, whatever you call it. So I agree with Jordan in a sense. I mean, it's again, I'm from the Jordan era where if you were the best player in the league, or if you're one of the best players in the league, you want to see them beat other best players. It's like the Viking thing, right? Where you beat these teams and you have the head, and you can just put on your counter and say, I beat Reggie Miller, I beat Patrick Ewing, I beat Alonzo Mourning, I beat Penny and Shaq. You know what I'm saying? I beat Gary Payton, Delip Schrempf, Sean Kemp. I beat the great Karl Malone and John Stockton. What happened to that? Now, we can sit and talk about the NBA losing ratings because of the whole woke stuff, and they are losing that. They are losing. So and Adam Silver sharpened up. He said we're going to stop that next year. So all the people that think the NBA is woke, it ain't woke. It's money. They played it. They played a game and they lost. They rolled the dice and they lost. But to build back up the league, I think they have to find ways to build parity. Now, we talked about this on this channel before with Andy N. Go subscribe to Andy N on Sportscaster. And we were talking about ways to improve the league. And I think one of the ways to increase parity is a long form where basically you reverse how the draft works in terms of standings, and you make it so that the ninth to the last teams, they got to compete for that ninth spot to get the number 1 draft pick, right? So even if I'm not making the playoffs, I'm going to fight extremely hard to try to get that ninth pick because it's going to give me a better chance to get a top draft pick, right? And I think that's how you increase parity because a lot of owners just sitting back. They don't care. They have a Trae Young. They have a whoever. They have whoever on their team. And they don't really care to improve the team. You know what I mean? They have their draw. They're making their money. Okay, they're good. And I think that hurts the league long term. It's bad for the league. So to me, man, I think if they could. Oh, sorry. Oh, my bad. I was trying to put the other saying. Salute to everybody on Sportscast as well, too, man. Thanks for joining. But I agree with Joy in the sense that if they could try to make it so that, well, first they got to call the game a lot better. I don't like some of the BS calls. I don't like some of the trash they call to make certain stars to basically create artificial stars. I don't like that in the NBA. I think it's trash. So whichever way they can to create parity, they need to do that. Obviously, Jordan's probably a little bit biased, but I agree with him. You know what I mean? To watch Dwight Howard on the side, like, granted, if the Miami Heat beat the Lakers, it's great because now you're seeing this organic team with a good free agent that no one was saying that the Heat were going to go to finals. Everybody could say and try to act like, oh, yeah, no, you didn't. So if they can make that work, if the Heat beat the Lakers, obviously people would be happy about it. But, you know, they got to find a way to increase parity. I don't know how they do that. If they can somehow make coaching important again. I don't know what it is. But, you know, watching LeBron James and all his buddies get together, it just feels cheap. You know what I mean? That's why I would have loved to see the Nuggets versus the Heat. Two mostly organic teams going at it with budding stars that they all drafted. Obviously, Butler's coming in free agent. But, again, this is not a guy that everybody was calling a 1-888 free agent yet to have. So, and Bron owns an agency, which is ridiculous. It's a conflict of interest, and they allow this in the NBA. People want to complain about how corrupt boxing is. NBA is just as corrupt when it comes to that. How can LeBron James have his own agency and bring people? That's why Marcus Morris had that whole issue. You know what I'm saying? It's trash. It's absolute trash they allow in the NBA. That's one of the things. LeBron James is slowly becoming a divisive figure in the game because people are seeing it as like the product is not better per se. You're bringing this guy on as he's this great person, this greatest of all time. You say he's a GOAT, but every time you see him, he's losing more than he's winning. And then when he wins, he has a stacked team. So it's like, where's a hero trial and tribulation that you see with LeBron James? There's a reason why people love Jordan. I hated Jordan growing up. When you look at his career, it's like, yo, dude, this really came to a team with a whole bunch of guys who were drug addicted, from his words, not mine, or from his insinuations. Came into a team where literally he had nothing. Chicago was nothing when Jordan came there, and he worked his tail off, was getting killed in the East with nothing. Before Pippen, he was getting killed. So it's what it is. I agree with Jordan. Got to increase the parity, got to improve the league because this is not going to work. 70% down from last year. NBA is dying. I'm going to say it's dying, but it's not sustainable. And for all the people in the WNBA that wants to kill the NBA, let me help you guys out. The WNBA makes no money. You've been losing money since your inception. I want to talk about equality. If things were actually equal, the WNBA would not exist. So Brianna Swart, whatever her name is, you want to get up there. Tracy McGrady's trying to tell you, hey, you need to lower the rim. We're trying to make – because people want to step on eggshells with these people because they want to say ESPN myself. I would just tell her straight up, look, I'm Tracy McGrady. I'm a Hall of Famer. If you guys want to kick me off this station, whatever, I'm going to get my own podcast, get my own advertising, right? But let me help you out. No one is watching the WNBA. The key demographic of the WNBA is older men. It's not women. The same people who complain on Twitter about men this minute, they're not watching WNBA. They're watching the NBA. So Brianna Smart, if you want to survive, lower the rim, make it more exciting where I can see you guys dunk. Make the ball. I mean, the ball is already smaller than the regular NBA. Well, I'm trying to help you out. It's not about you trying because you're not making money. You're losing the league. The NBA subsidizes the WNBA. So I just don't like it when people kill men and the NBA's. No, LeBron James makes 0.04% of the NBA revenues. Brianna Smart, Sue Bird makes 0.3% of the WNBA revenues. If you did the math, the reason why Brianna Smart, Sue Bird's making less money is because the WNBA does not generate any money. And she's talking about revenues. Imagine if they said profits. You'd make zero. Well, obviously, her salary would be part of the cost. But thank God they're doing it at revenue, where you're part of the cost versus, hey, we're going to give you part of the profits because you're not making any profits. So all the WNBA players who are slandering NBA players, Harrison Barnes. I mean, Harrison Barnes was the #1 rated guy coming out of high school. Won a championship with the Warriors. Let's not slander people's names because, again, if you had to send your best to play the NBA for a $1 billion check, you're not winning that game, WNBA people. And a vast majority of these people that get on ESPN, a lot of these female writers and sportscasters who get on and want to issue on the NBA, they don't watch the WNBA either. Like that one lady, she got ESPN. People were even complaining, how the hell she get this big salary with ESPN? I forgot her damn name. She goes on and she's like, and she tries to issue on the WNBA or the NBA about, blah, blah. It's like, dogs, you don't even support the NBA. They look through, I think Basketball Examiner went through it. Katie something. I can't remember her name. Katie something. Katie Nolan, that's her name. Katie Nolan was just trying to destroy, get on WNBA, NBA about like, it's supposed to give it time out, and all her facts were wrong. And she, on her Instagram, when she's doing sports stuff, she didn't cover any of the WNBA. Did not have one picture of the WNBA on her Katie Nolan. Thank you, Gregory. Didn't have anything of WNBA on her Instagram. Never had a WNBA player or didn't cover the WNBA in her little show that got canceled. So again, first of all, she has privilege because, again, no one knows Katie Nolan. People, other writers are like, how did she get $1 million from ESPN or $7 million, something like that? It's like she came from Fox, did nothing at Fox. Jason Whitlock exposed her. Somebody used to cry during the telecast because she couldn't handle the lines, because she couldn't go through her lines properly, because she was flubbing her lines on a scripted show. I just don't like the slander, man. They got to wake up. NBA got to wake up because sports fans, when you antagonize sports fans, they'll go someplace else. College football is there now. I didn't say it's not the same just because of COVID. They'll go someplace else. NFL, even though NFL's trying to be woke, they haven't gone at their own audiences like the NBA has. So let's be smart about that. But let's go into some more other stuff. Amare Stoudamire joining the Brooklyn Nets. This is going to be an issue. Now, Amare Stoudamire, I think one of the most explosive, most fun to watch, probably maybe top 20, top 25 power forwards of all time. I mean, you watch those Suns years. I mean, him and Amare, then of course him and Nash. I mean, they just had a great chemistry. Him, Nash, Joe Johnson. Oh my gosh, why am I losing all the names now? Sean Marion. Joe Johnson got traded, but he left, right? Because he's like, whatever. Raja Bell, the big French dude. I always forget this dude's name for some reason. Oh my gosh, big French dude, played like 6'9", could play power forward, could play point guard, all that stuff. Why am I losing this guy's name? I can't remember. Amare Stoudamire, one of the best players of all, one of the best power forwards, top 20. You want to say power forwards of all time. Going to that Nets team, right? And Amare Stoudamire is a man's man, right? He's you could call him alpha, right? From what we've seen. He has knowledge of self, found his Jewish heritage. Salute to that. I don't think he's going to fill a team with a guy like. Let me not say he's not going to fill a team like that. I just don't see that coaching staff of the Nets being of any decent effect on that team. Boris Diaw, thank you. The big. Well, thank you, man. I don't know why I always forget Boris Diaw's name. That team will not succeed deep, man. I think it's going to be an issue. First of all, Spencer Dinwiddie again. By the way, go check out Big Freezy on Sportscaster. I did a show with him, some other dudes. I did with Udi Mack, who doesn't have a channel. You guys need to get their channels, man, because they're knowledgeable guys on basketball. Udi Mack, Woodside, big on Twitter. So go see them. But go and support Big Freezy, Uncle Freezy on Sportscaster. We had a really good discussion, ongoing discussion about building the construction of the team. And we actually talk about trying to get Spencer Dinwiddie. Because, again, as much as Spencer Dinwiddie is a clown, in regards to always comments about the Knicks, delusional comments about the Knicks, trying to make Brooklyn like it's this woke thing when I lived in that area for I don't know how many years, and no one cares about that area whatsoever. Spencer Dinwiddie is a talented player. And when Kyrie Irving went down, Spencer Dinwiddie came in, he did an admirable job. He looked like the Spencer Dinwiddie of old. And Spencer Dinwiddie's not going to survive on that team. Now, he left Rock Nation, I believe, and now he's going to represent himself. Good luck to you. Hey, get more money. Don't give those fees up if you can negotiate for yourself. But let's be honest. You leaving Rock Nation says a lot. I think you are trying to angle to leave. And the funniest place that would work for you would have been the Knicks. Your pride is not going to let you go to the Knicks now. But imagine a Spencer Dinwiddie. Now, everybody talks about we need a point guard. Get a guy like Spencer Dinwiddie, could easily play the one. This guy came up from the drudges, of the Pistons, was really nothing for 3 or 4 years with the Pistons. Guy comes in. Let me just look up some of his stats. I believe his first year with that Nets team in the time of the playoffs, I think he was like one of the best point guards against off the pick and roll. Excuse me. This is a guy in Spencer Dinwiddie who is coming to his own. This guy averaged 20.6 points last year, 6.8 assists, 3.5 rebounds, 41.5% from the field, only 30.8% from three. I thought he had a better 3-point percentage, 77.8% from the three-point line. This is a guy that I think could have grown. 3-point percentage sucks. Really had a good year. Actually, that year with Brooklyn, where he broke out was where. Hold on. Come on, sports reference. Yeah, the year he broke out with Brooklyn, he actually averaged 37.6 points. But since his attempts went up, his percentage went down. So that's definitely a percent improved. But you've seen it. You've seen Spencer Dinwiddie come in and he could be a point guard. Even if we want to go after a guy like Cade Cunningham, which would be hard if you're winning with Spencer Dinwiddie. But that's at least a guy that can play the point guard position, maybe switch to the 2, be more of a slasher, loves to play out where he gets that pick and roll and gets deeper into the paint or deeper into the mid-range, right? And he's not going to fit with Kyrie. So Amare Stoudamire, what is Amare Stoudamire? Who's he going to teach? Where's he going to be able to impart his wisdom? KD's in play. KD thinks that he's above the system now. He spent his 2 years or 3 or whatever years with the Warriors. He's good now. He don't need instruction from you, Amare. Kyrie Irving thinks he's the greatest player coach of all time. This guy couldn't make that Celtics team hum despite the fact that he was a better player than Kemba Walker. Better player than Kemba Walker could not make that Celtics team go. It's going to be a disaster with Amare Stoudamire, man. And I like Amare Stoudamire. I think he has the right temperament. I think that I wish he was on a better coaching staff. I wish that Amare Stoudamire could actually get true Andy N says Guillermo spreading gossip from yesterday. Yeah, he did have a better percentage with the Knicks. He specifically has killed the Knicks at times. Yeah, especially he could use a PG, but again, when Spencer Dinwiddie has come in and played the point guard role, he's been fairly good coming in and playing for Kyrie when Kyrie got hurt last year. So we'll see, man. That Amare Stoudamire, that selection, man, I just don't see that combination work. Oh crap, Sim is here. Hopefully he wasn't here this whole time because that'd be embarrassing. Hopefully I wasn't ignoring him. But sorry, I was just waxing poetic about Amare Stoudamire. Sim is in.
What's going on, man?
You said what?
I said, what's going on? I said, nah, I just got in. And heard you saying something about Amare. I didn't hear the whole thing. I just got in.
Yeah. First and foremost, Sim just had the coach's corner on Mitchell Robinson, everyone's favorite Knick to either hate or love. So please go check that out on Sportscaster.
I might be surprised. You might be surprised. I know people think I'm going to hate on Mitch, but
well, we all know who Sim's only favorite players are. It's definitely Julius Randle and Kevin Knox. Those are the only guys in Sim's book.
No, it's definitely Frank Ntilikina. It's definitely Frank Ntilikina.
Frank. I forgot.
It's definitely Frank.
I forgot.
You know, I feel like
this is the same Sim that said Knox is good, but Mitchell Robinson or Knox, I'll give Knox a chance. But Mitchell Robinson after last year, now take out of the season, the last year Mitchell Robinson when he had the 178 blocks, whatever, which I think is more impressive than the 74% from the field since you just ride the basket. Sim was making, you got to get another center, man. This dude ain't ready, man, blah, blah.
He wasn't.
Knox could slide. Not Mr. Knox who dove over the basket.
Never said that. I said send Knox to the G League. You can go back and check it. I said send that man to the G League because he's lost his confidence. But I didn't think that Mitch Robinson was ready to start last year, and I think I was proved correct. He should be ready to start this year.
Well, put it like this. His agent said he's going to improve more than just being a lob artist and that stuff. 2 years of Instagram, Sham God, 3-pointers against some scrub. Yeah. 2 years. Mitchell Robinson better take more. I think he took 5 shots his last season. So you gotta take more. You gotta show me something.
I don't need him to. I don't need Mitch Robinson to prove that he can dribble. That's not what we need him to prove right now. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like in the show when we talked about his offense, it was basically he's got to work on his form a little bit because it's a little bit funny. Like if you look at the show when we break it down, he basically takes in, he brings. He's got his elbow there, but then his arm comes over, like bends over this way. Then he shoots this way, right? Which obviously is going to make the ball maybe fly funny sometimes. So I think he's got to work on that. I think in that mid-range area, he's got to work on getting the ball, being in triple threat, right? And having a good, strong stance, protecting the ball. And then obviously the mid-range shot. You know what I mean? I think like for a summer, we see all those videos of him dribbling and stuff. I think that's mostly him just playing around with his friends. I don't know if that's what they're working on. I doubt it. I think that's just him playing around with his friends, having a good time. But I think those few things is what he needs to work on and then come in, take baby steps. I don't need to see him. I mean, obviously there's going to be times when he'll be a release valve. He might have to dribble it up. There's some pressure on the guards. He gets the rebound. There's some pressure on the guards. He might have to take a few dribbles to break the press and then, get the ball out. But I don't need to see him trying to get out on the perimeter and do all these kind of moves because he's not ready for that yet, in my opinion.
I was watching, and shout out to Who's Mark because you put me on to him, but I was watching Jalen Smith from Maryland. And, one thing about Jalen Smith, I love that he has that move where he could step. Like he sets that spin move so beautifully, and it literally takes one or two dribbles, right? And we've seen Mitchell Robinson, at least in the practices, where literally a jab step with the left to then go and spin. I mean, Jalen Smith does it so well, and that's literally again, you don't have to sit there and dribble and sham God and all this crap. It's literally a good setup. You set the foot once the guy you see him kind of commit to to his left. Step your left foot, nice spin around right at the rim. If he recovers, you just fake it. You're tall enough and go right back up. And I think, like you said, it's simple moves. Like you watch some of the best players. I mean, say what you want about Shaq, because Shaq had power, but Shaq had some of the best footwork in the NBA. And Shaq wasn't coming from the three-point line outside that one All-Star game where he was joking around. But he wasn't doing all this stuff like at the basket. It was, hey, catch the ball, feel where the defender's playing him. Then you make the spin move, and then you explode. And obviously, Mitch Robinson is not Shaq. But one or two spin moves for a guy like Mitch, so tall, so long, who's going to get fouled. I mean, it's just amazing. And I think, I don't know if I'm going to go and check the episode after because I have to set this up and I had some work to do. But I hope you guys analyze like at least the shot that he did make, which was, I remember one in Atlanta, he made the foul line. And then there was one with the Knicks. We were playing at home. I can't remember which team. And I think did you guys see like a hitch in a shot where like he kind of like first of all, he rushes it because I think he's just nervous. But there's like, he kind of does like, and I know what you're talking about with the curve, I guess with the arm, but he hitches like, I don't know, like, I don't know, it's like kind of like to get ready. And it's not nice and compact. It's not, it's kind of like when you shoot, it's like, you don't want as much, like obviously you use your legs to create the energy to jump, right? And you have to go at your apex. But once you're at your apex, you're not moving your body and doing all, all this wild jazz. You're basically nice and compact and your arm, everything. So you try to repeat the angle. And with Mitch, at least when I saw with the Hawks, even though he made the shot, when he took the shot at the foul line, I mean, it was just it was ugly. But then when you see him at the foul line, it's obviously he's cool, compact, and it's a nice, what I mean? I know he says a little bit of the form is a little messed up, but at least that weird hitch. I mean, he's not. If you guys remember, Charles Hayes from the Rockets used to have that weird. Then he hold up the foul line and then try to throw it in, and people would get caught up. It's not like that.
Yeah. So yeah. So I wasn't able to. I was trying to find those shots. I wasn't able to find those shots, but I did. Hopefully, you'll be able to see this. Let me know if you can see this. Are you able to see? Are you able to see that? Okay, right. So if you look, look at his look at his elbow, and then look at the way his arm like bends.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So his arm like bends over in front of his face before he lets the ball go. You know, and maybe that's where a hitch is coming in. I mean, he has a good flick with his wrist and everything, but his arm just kind of bends over in front of his face. And it makes the ball now curve out. A couple of these shots in this video, the ball curved out and hit the front of the rim. Even though he's on the side of the rim, it curves out and hits the front of the rim because of where he's releasing the ball. And then, you know, he kind of, he kind of flicks the ball this way, you know, a little bit when he shoots. So
was there anybody? I don't know why. I'm trying to think of anybody who kind of like curls it, because at least he has, so the form of he's guiding the ball correctly, right, with his left, right. He's kind of covering it, so it's kind of like a wall. I guess you want him to do more of that, but I don't know. I wish somebody could break this down scientifically because I don't know it, but I think with certain people, right, like basically how their joints are and where the strength and all that stuff comes into play. I think some people like, you know, obviously muscle memory. If someone got him to do that, right, he'll slowly start, like, it's like the same thing with Lonzo, right? Lonzo used to do that for, I don't know what the hell that was, but, you know, and he starts to shoot it more straight. I think with him, I would love for him to get a trainer who could change his muscle memory. But I think with certain players, I just think like sometimes the release points, they get strength somewhere, right? I knew people used to shoot like from here, but they would give you 50, like shooting like from here. And I'm like, how the hell, like the ball's not, like, how do you?
Yeah, I mean, there are some people that shoot from the side over here.
Yeah.
And they look at the rim they look at the rim here and they got the ball over here. I don't know. I can't shoot that way. I don't know how they do it, but there's some people that do it.
And then some people do the catapult. I mean, like Larry Bird, I mean, one of the greatest. I mean,
they bring that ball way back there.
My boy Vassell does it for other people. And again,
Vassell shoots that way. Yep.
And I love how they're trying to mess up Vassell real quick. Someone is putting up a campaign to push this dude further down, right? Because I've watched Vassell, right? And I'm like, he shot like that in college. Like, why are they saying this on Twitter? Someone wants him to drop. Someone definitely wants to. I'm just saying.
I don't see a problem with the way he shoots.
No,
I don't understand what people are complaining about. Just because the ball is a little bit farther back here, it's still up here.
Yeah,
right? It's still up there. So I don't understand the problem.
Go to his Virginia game. When he dropped 27 or whatever it was, he was doing that the whole game. I'm like, all right, and I literally said that in the video I did. I said one of the benefits of him is that, you know, it's hard to touch. It's hard to reach back there. Like you can't. I give the story all the time, or a few times. I said I was playing intramural with my cousin. My cousin Ren went to LIU, salute to Ren, beast of a player. But we got mollywopped by these two white dudes. They're only good two players on the team. The other players suck. One dude who looked like a roided up Jimmy Fredette, who's killing my cousin all over the court. And I had to play some other dude who wasn't good, wasn't athletic, but literally shot the ball here. And he probably dropped 25. There's nothing I could do. I'm in his face, all that stuff. And he'd be like, do this. I'm like, I know he's going to shoot. Jab step. And I'm like, all right, I can't do anything about that. So it's an advantage if you can do that. But for Mitchell Robinson, I hope he's with the right people to guide him. I just hate the Instagram stuff because I just think that's a distraction. And that goes to, I guess I was talking about this before, but if you could, you know, give your opinion on this. What your boy Michael Jordan said about the so-called hold on, I got the wrong article up. The Instagram era of players where, let me just read the quote real quick.
Yeah.
I guess he rips social media, but he didn't really rip. He was just giving his opinion. But he said on a cigar aficionado, he said, Tiger Woods played at his peak somewhere toward the end of my career. Then what changed from that time frame to now is social media, Twitter, and all those types of things. And that has invaded the personalities and personal time of individuals. It's to the point where some people have been able to utilize it to their financial gain and things of that nature. But for someone like myself, and this is what Tiger deals with, I don't know if I could have survived in the Twitter era, where you don't have the privacy that you would want, and what seems to be very innocent can always be misinterpreted. So, how do you feel about? I agree with him wholeheartedly.
I agree with him about the social media era. About him not being able to survive it. I mean, I mean, just don't be on it. If you're just not on it, then, you know, you can probably survive it, right? But, you know, if you grow up in an era where you have social media, then, you know, you're probably going to be on it if that's the era that you grow up in. You know, I mean, social media gets a lot of people in a lot of trouble, clearly. You know, some players are able to use it. Some, not just players, but people are able to use it for their benefit. And I do agree. Like, a lot of the privacy that players have, obvious the private, you know, the privacy. Some players, people put their own stuff out there. But if you're just walking down the street, someone can snap a picture, any kind of picture. You could be walking with your daughter and people don't know it's your daughter. And then they put it on social media and say you're walking with some chick or something crazy, right? I mean, and it's got to be nerve-wracking for some of these guys because they grow up on social media, so they get on social media. Naturally, you're going to search your name, and then you start to see all this stuff about you, good stuff, bad stuff. For the most part, most people are going to look and focus on those bad things that people say about them, right? And want to respond or maybe take it to heart, or, you know, people feel like this, people feel like that. I mean, it's tough. It's tough because I know, like, I didn't grow up with social media when I was a teenager, but as it started to come in, right, in my mindset, I was like, you worried about what somebody said on MySpace? Yeah. You worried about what this person said on this or that? Man, that's just social media, right? But for these kids growing up, it's not just social media, it is life. So, you know, It
got scary when you know, you hear kids, and I'm not making light of this, but when you hear like kids who, you know, committed suicide because of it, I'm like, in my head, again, I grew up mostly without social. I remember the days we had to call somebody on the phone to like literally have a 5-minute conversation. Like, you couldn't just text somebody. And you have kids now who unfortunately influenced to the point where, you know, they're committing suicide because of pressures and all that stuff. And I'm just like, in my head, it just always in my head, I'm just like, couldn't you just turn it off? Like, I mean, like, I don't understand. So, but I know. Now, you know, and Michael Jordan, this is what, you know, I come from, because I think in regards to basketball, Michael Jordan's trying to say, but he doesn't want to seem like a hater, right? Because if you disagree, you're a hater, whatever. I think Michael Jordan's trying to basically say, like, during my day, like, basketball was everything, right? And obviously people went out, people did their thing, you know, got the chicks, whatever, cars, whatever. You have fun during your off time. Let's not make it seem like these guys just. But with Michael Jordan, I feel like it's like, and other people said this. I've heard Shumpert talk about this. I've heard Steven Jackson. There are people who they get that check. They don't give a damn about practicing. They don't give a damn about improving the game. Like, they don't care. He said, I forgot who it was. It might have been Steven Jackson. He said, majority of these guys, you know, like your average players, whatever, they get in the league, and a lot of them can be a lot better, but they just don't care. Like, they got the money, they got the chicks, they got the cars, they got the house. They're good. And the thing about Michael Jordan is that when he talks about that, I think he's saying that people care more about taking this picture, doing that, and showing off versus, okay, you're in the league, you haven't won anything, right? You got a nice contract, but, you know, do you want to be great? You know what I mean? And unfortunately, with Kobe retiring, you know, I think that you know, you see little players here and there. I think the next type of players who might be that, guys like Jason Tatum, I kind of see it in him. Obviously, he worked with Kobe last summer. Jimmy Butler, who unfortunately he's older. I wish Jimmy Butler was with his Heat team since he got drafted. I would have loved to see that. But, you know, guys like Jimmy Butler, it's a very select few who I think that they take basketball to, like, it is their life. Like, okay, social media is fine, whatever, but I'm in the gym. I'm finding ways. I'm doing diets. I'm doing all this stuff to get to the maximum. I want that championship because I want to be mentioned with the greats versus the cliques, right? And, you know, I'm not hating on social media. When I watch basketball, man, forget even the Knicks. I just miss the days of yesteryear where, like, you know what I mean, you had that passion, that fire. Like, people got into fights. Now, obviously, we've seen fights with, like, Marcus Morris and Elfrid Payton when they fought Jay Crowder. That feels a little bit different than when, like, John Starks and Ewan went up against the Bulls, right? It's like, we hate you. You know what I mean? We're cool off the court. Like, we're friends, whatever, but on the court, I want to kill you. You want to kill me. Is because we all want to be great. That little intangible thing about basketball, about being one of the great, that fire that burns in us. And I think a lot of times social media's helped, that fire is kind of flamed out, right? You know, you're getting praise, you're being, now the GOAT is being thrown everywhere. Oh, you're the GOAT, he's the GOAT. It's like, you know, it kind of.
Yeah. And you know, sometimes I think, you know, like you said, that fire isn't always there. These kids play so much basketball. I think it starts to devalue how much they appreciate the game, because for them, there's always another game. You know what I'm saying? They play from the time, you know, some of these kids start playing at freaking 3 to 5 years old, like playing real intense basketball and training. Right. And by the time they get into the NBA, it's like,
I don't care.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I've been playing basketball my whole life.
You said training. There's a dude from Mount Vernon. I remember the story. I think he got recruited at 8. So you're getting you got recruited by Duke or somebody at 8. Like I don't know what it was, but they basically making time. I forgot who it was, but it was like at 8 or elementary school. And I'm like, you know, I agree with you. You burn out, and maybe you don't want to be the guy to carry the family and all that stuff. So I don't blame him, but you know, you miss. And one thing, somebody's saying that people wouldn't survive. Remember, Jordan basically had social media back then, because if you think about the media attention he had to go through, it was just as bad. Like literally, the cameras were on him 24/7. Like paparazzi would touch down in Europe. Like you couldn't. It was social media. Jordan, 5 a.m. I saw him, you know, order pizza. It's like, no, it's like, what? Like, let the dude live. So people saying he wouldn't survive. I mean, I agree with you. I think there's some people like Charles Barkley would have been probably out of his mind back then, throwing people through glasses.
Charles Barkley. Yeah, he would have been on social media. He would have gotten in trouble. I know he would have. He would have gotten in trouble big time on social media. Oh my gosh.
But your boy might have another thing that might be, I think you like to talk about. Now, he talked about the competitive balance in the NBA. He said on the same Cigar Aficionado show, he said, I think you want to be able to have competitive balance in the league, Jordan said. And if a player is able to choose, determine what team he wants to play for, then you're going to have some talent discrepancy in the league. So if everybody wants to go to Chicago, then all the best players are going to be in Chicago. You start to see a little bit of it now where all the stars try to get together on the same team. But I think it's going to hurt. It's going to start to hurt the overall aspect of the league from a competitive standpoint. Only 1 or 2 teams will be great, and the other 28 will be garbage. How do you feel about that?
I agree with them. Yeah, I agree with them. I just don't know if you can stop it. I don't know how you stop it from happening, but I definitely agree with them. And a lot of that, too, comes from AAU summer basketball. You know, like if you're familiar with the AAU culture, you know, you can have one player that's on a team, and then, you know, he wants his friends to come over, and the coach is like, well, I really want this player. Okay, I'm gonna let his buddy come onto the team because I want this guy. Or if you got a group of 4 or 5 players that's really good, and you know they're all friends, they'll travel to team together. You know what I'm saying? And if they don't end up liking this team, they'll move to this team. They'll move to that team. I think that culture's moved right into the NBA of guys just, you know, these are my friends and we're going to play on the same team together and, you know, make it happen. I mean, you know, LeBron James basically kind of started that culture in the NBA, right? And if you pay attention to, you know, his high school career, yeah, he had an AAU team that, you know, they used to go travel, you know, all over the place and play. That entire AAU team, well, I don't know if the entire team, but most of those guys end up playing for that high school. Like they took that team and started playing for that high school. That high school wasn't, what's the name of the high school now?
Irish,
can't think of the name, but
Irish something. Was it Irish?
Yeah. Irish something, but they weren't a powerhouse school.
Oh,
right. They weren't a powerhouse school, and they're not a powerhouse school now. Saint Vincent.
Yeah, Saint Vincent, Saint Mary. Yep.
Yeah, they weren't a powerhouse school, but that AAU team went and played for that school. And how, you know, whatever they did is a private school, so they can let them in however they want to. right? And then all of a sudden that school became a powerhouse school for the time that LeBron James was there, right? And then, obviously, after high school, when you get into college, there's not much you can do about, having your guys come with you. But then in the NBA, he's like, I want to play with my friends and my buddies. So I think that, kind of passes on to the NBA. Not every player is going to have the power to be able to do that, but a lot of players will. Not a lot. Some players will. Some players, your best players, are going to have the power to be able to team up if they want to.
I think the best way, and I know Andy, shout out to Andy, who's going to put his channel on Sportscast, Andy N. We talked about this. I'm pretty sure you talked about this as well. I think I brought this up with you before, and I think that one way to increase parity is through that, making it so that the odds are flipped, right? Teams 9 through whatever, they have a higher chance of getting the number 1 pick, right? So you're going to have teams, I think some of these teams are kind of lazy. They just sit back like, we'll get a Trae Young next year. He'll be our draw. You get some of these teams who are lazy, or these owners who are kind of lazy and they just want to draw for the night. They just want somebody to bring in some viewership. Bradley Beal, Bradley Beal's going to play for the Wizards tonight. We don't care about the playoffs. I think if you can get it so that you have people competing for that number 1 spot, and you also have teams who might be a little bit strategic, you might play it out where it's like, all right, we get in the 8th seed, but we're going to get blown out, versus we go at the 9th seed. We don't want to get a playoffs, but we get a higher draft pick or a higher odds to get like a Cade Cunningham. You know what I mean? You could figure it out later, but I think if you could do something where you get these lower ranked teams out, you're gonna one that improves the viewership right now, because you're gonna see some of these scrappier teams going all out and trying to beat each other, right? Some of these end of season games are gonna be a lot more competitive, right? Which can the Knicks at number 10, can they beat the number 9 team, whatever? Just try to get a guy like Cade Cunningham or Barnes or Jalen, right, something like that. And I think that obviously if you could bring those stars to some of these teams that just miss it, because think about this, if it's a team that just missed it, they came in at 9, say the Knicks got the 9th spot or the 10th spot, and they get a Cade Cunningham, you get a guy like Cade. New York is not a good example. I'm not using New York. Let me say Charlotte Hornets. They come in, they compete. Jordan, hires proper basketball people, right, who can actually draft players, develop, and they just missed, right? They get a 9th spot. Now they get a guy like Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham comes to a situation where it's not as, oh man, this team sucks. I'm going to leave here as soon as I can. It might be, okay, there's something here, there's something brewing here. I like this, blah, blah. So I just think that it improves increases the incentive, improves the incentive for some of these crappier teams to do better, right? And so, and again, it comes back to what I talk about with coaching, and a lot of teams, they hire guys like, look what's happening to the Nets. When we get to the Nets, they're hiring guys like Steve Nash and all that stuff. Hire actual good basketball people. Put more effort into improving your front office to make sure that, it's not just your friend you're bringing in. It's actual good coaches who can lift up your team. So I think that's one way you can improve the so-called parity. Now, how will it fly with the CBA? They might have some leverage because the NBA has lost they're down 70% in ratings, 60-some% in ratings, something like that. So I think to spur up viewership, especially with the style of play, and if you get more parity over time, next year's draft, these next few drafts, Amani Bates, all these guys, you have some talented kids coming out. If you can somehow go back to that CBA and sell it, I think the teams might be for it. That the players might push back. I'm trying to figure out why they would push back. Maybe it might feel like, oh, you're trapping me. But again, if it's the better teams are getting some of these high draft picks, they might like it. Now the crappy teams might not like it, but
right. That's what would make it tough, because the bad teams then might always stay bad. But what if they did? I think we talked about this before, right? What if they had, for those teams that didn't make the playoffs, they had some kind of tournament? It would increase viewership. So they had, an end of the year tournament before the playoffs start, right? There's, before the playoffs start, maybe you say, okay, we're going to take a week off, let the teams who are in the NBA playoffs prepare, get some rest and prepare for the playoffs, right? Instead of just starting right at, sometimes you get a team that on Friday they had to play a team to get into the playoffs, and then on Monday their playoff game starts, or Sunday their playoff game starts, right? What if they say, okay, we're going to give a week, let those guys rest up a little bit, get prepared for the playoffs, And during that week, the teams that didn't make the playoffs, we're going to have a tournament that decides some seeding, right? And maybe you say your top, you look at who has what draft picks, and your top 5 teams, they're going to be top 5 in the lottery. Maybe you say your top 10 teams. I don't know how many teams don't make the playoffs. 6. There's
16, how many teams have made? 30?
30. So there's 10 teams.
16.
Well, I mean, there's 30 teams, so there's 14 teams that don't make the playoffs.
Right.
Right. So maybe if you did like, okay, you got your top 7 or your top 6 or top 5 or 6, right? That they're gonna get seeded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however that works out. And then all the other teams, they go into a little playoff format themselves to see who's gonna get picks 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and so on, or something like that. I don't know. That way your worst teams still get the chance to get the best players in the draft. But then those other teams, they gotta, they go into a little tournament to decide whether or not they're gonna get some of those other draft picks.
So
something like that.
So the best teams. So which ones get the best draft picks?
So your teams with the worst, let's just say, let me see if there's 14 teams that don't make the playoffs, to try to make it even. So your top 6 teams, your worst 6 teams get the top 6 picks automatically. They're not even in that little playoff format. They automatically get the top 6 picks. The lottery will determine which, what number they are. And then picks 7 through whatever, though the remainder of those teams, go into a playoff, like a little playoff format. And then you have your playoff teams, I guess, you would give them, I don't know, I guess it would get pretty complicated, right? Your playoff teams, they'd have picks 16 through 30. And however they were seeded, they would have picks 16 through 30. Then those middle from pick 7 through pick 15, they kind of have a little playoff to decide who's going to get what or something like that.
I want that draft. I want that first top draft pick to be attainable, because you don't want it where, because if you didn't have a tournament, some of those middling but bad teams, they may have been like, screw it, I was going to be, whatever. Like, I play in this tournament, I'm going to get the 8th pick. If I don't play in this tournament, I was probably going to get the 8th pick anyway. Versus if you incentivize them, now it's like, okay, this team is not good, but we get that top draft pick. You got to play a such and such team. I just think that the incentive will change how some of these terrible teams operate. Now, to Joshua Smalls, he brought up 2 things I disagree with. One, he said that the ratings wouldn't go up. Sir, literally at the end of the season, these crap teams play, no one's watching them. No one cares. The players have said no one's watching the Knicks play the Pistons at the end of the season to close it out. Like, oh, yeah, the Knicks. But if there's an incentive to say, hey, whichever team comes in, whatever, like, you get better odds to get the number 1 draft pick, despite the fact that you weren't the worst team, whatever. Well, the Knicks not an example because usually the worst team. But if the Knicks were somewhere middling and they could compete for those and you're talking about this tournament, or even just without saying where it's like they're 9th or whatever, trust me, you're gonna get people watching it, because everybody wants to see their team get the next Cade Cunningham. Everybody wants to see their team gets the next, so-called LaMelo, Barnes, whoever want to say, Jalen Green and Monty Bates. Who's gonna get? Knicks gonna get. But trust me, a lot of the basketball heads, you go on Twitter. Salute to the Knicks Twitter. Very, very energetic people, Knicks fans on Twitter. Trust me, all those people will watch. Viewership will stay strong with some of these crappier teams. And he set up he said something else about. He said like, "Oh, Sim, I don't agree because it's given a participation trophy." But if you incentivize teams to fight to get better draft picks, how's that a participation trophy?
Right. Exactly. I mean, they're getting a draft pick anyway.
Yeah, you're fighting for a draft pick. You're not fighting to say, "Hey, I got a trophy." It's like, nah. And it's not. Again, it's not as if teams. You want it so that teams that are competing for this, right? When they're competing for this, they're not going to sit there. Now, obviously, if you have, certain, when people talked about the process, right? Literally, everyone knew the Sixers were tanking for how many years, right? It was ugly basketball. They were legit tanking for how many years until they got Embiid, Noels, I can't pronounce his name, and Ben Simmons, right? How about, okay, we're fighting for this. We get out our star. He elevates us. Now we're in the playoffs. Now other players want to come and play with this team that, one, you might have a team that sucked, but the coaching came in. They changed the culture. They changed the style of players, improved. Now you get a Kate Cunningham. You go into next season, you get a Bradley Bill or whoever. I'm just making up names to play alongside this guy. That team is no longer going to sit there trying to tank to get another draft. It would be stupid. It would be weird. You have all these talented players now who can contribute now. They're going to obviously now that team might get into the playoffs, right? And then think about this. The team that was 8th, they come now into the pool to compete with all this play. You're going to have good basketball. Imagine if – remember the Heat used to when they lost out in the playoffs by literally like one game when they had like Dragic. This was before Butler came. They had a bunch of decent players, Dragic and like James Johnson. They weren't great, right? That team comes in. They just missed it. Now they're competing. Now they're the team that's playing for that 9th spot or whatever to get the top draft pick. They come in next year. They get a Kate Cunningham, Amani, whoever it may be. That team, you're not going to get a bunch of players, teams playing bad basketball to get a top draft pick. You're going to get good basketball. Trust me, it's going to sustain. And people are like, I want to watch this. It's like a NIT on steroids. If that makes any sense. So I don't know where people. If you don't like the idea, that's fine. But I think.
The only thing that I'm concerned about is, your bottom teams is going to be, it might make it hard for them to get talent in the draft, right? Because, like look at the West, you might have teams that are really good, really, really good, don't make the playoffs, right? And then they end up getting the number 1 pick, right? Because they're a good team anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's the only thing that would make me a little nervous about it.
And Andre, you do bring up a good point. Why would replacement level players?
Yeah, that's another thing. Why would those players play for their replacement?
That's true.
I mean, but the thing is, you're getting paid to play, and you know why? You know why they would play? I mean, it would put them in a tough situation, right? But I think it would look poorly upon them to other free agents, to other teams, if they're going to become a free agent, if they don't play. If they don't actually go out there and play basketball, teams are going to look and say, you know what? This guy's not.
He was always.
We don't want this guy around. Yeah, he was. Yeah, we don't want this guy around.
Versus,
you know what I mean?
You have them in the tournament. Again, you say why would like Sim just said, maybe regular season, blah, blah. But again, we've seen in the bubble where you had bubble stars who, like, who's this guy? Where the hell did he come from? Look at that Nets team. I know that Nets team got destroyed, but they literally, I don't know how many guys were like averaging double digits in the bubble. And it was like, who the hell are any of these guys? Like, I've never heard of these guys before. They didn't have Kyrie or Katie. They didn't have Dinwiddie. So I think it can actually work. The tournament.
I mean, and then give them, they're playing a few extra games, give them some extra money.
Yeah.
Right. Give them a little bit of extra money for playing, and then, it's like you got the NCAA and then you got what's the other one?
NIT.
The NIT, right? Not in the tournament, guys.
But it actually means something.
But it means something to those people who are playing. It means something. You know what I mean? And if you do that kind of incentive where you say, hey, you know what? They didn't make the big time, but they're playing for, they're playing for draft position or whatever they're playing for. And then you get to see how some of these guys, it might help some of these guys. You get to see how they perform in pressure situations where some of these guys who's, never been in the playoffs. Right. And you say, well, you know what? They were in a playoff type situation and they performed well. And so you might decide, we'll keep this guy or we won't keep this guy because we don't think he can perform well or whatever. So I think it's something that's interesting, man.
If a guy like, and I know people don't like him, if a guy like Elfrid Payton, right? Say the Knicks were fighting for that 9th spot. A guy like Elfrid Payton had a terrible season, but he comes in that bubble, right? And people say, why would you play for? Well, put it like this: you're probably not going to get a good deal from another team anyway, with your bad play during the regular season. But if you come in for the next 2-3 weeks, whatever, and ball out, the team might look at you in a different light and say, like Sim just said, hey, let's keep him, let's re-sign him. Versus you go to another team that may not fit. So I think it could work, man.
Yeah, and those young teams, those younger teams, you give them a chance to, like we always talk about with tanking, right? You don't always prepare, because you're tanking, you're losing games, so you don't prepare, you don't take it seriously. Well, you know what? It's going to force teams to take things seriously when you get to that little tournament to say, you know what? Let's prepare. We want a chance to get this whatever draft pick. You know what I'm saying? So we need to prepare. We need to prepare for it. I mean, it does create a conundrum for those players who might be on the way out. That's the league. It was probably on the way out anyway.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I mean, think about it. Isn't it that way now at the end of the season, right? When they say, "Oh yeah, these guys are tanking," you know what I'm saying? And you got players playing, and they're playing out the rest of the season, knowing that a draft pick may come in and replace them.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I guess now, you can have some teams that say, well, we're going to win this game on purpose or something like that. But I mean, players go out there and they play. I think most of the players would want to. They wouldn't even be thinking probably about the draft pick, right? They'd be like, yo, let's go out. Let's try to win this. You get the team gets an incentive, but you got to give the player some kind of incentive as well.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know, Andy, what do you think?
Bro, I think money would make everything work.
Money?
just get, a tip like $10,000, $20,000 tip for each win, bro. They're gonna be playing for every 82 games.
Yeah.
And just with Joshua, I'm sorry, man. I don't trust anything with this new draft. The way the probabilities and all that stuff works, man. I think it's another way the NBA could just do a black box kind of situation where they could have their teams that they want to get top draft picks. Because again, I remember 2012 how Pelicans got the draft pick because they were owned by the NBA. It was just kind of weird. And then Cleveland got all those first round draft picks after LeBron left. Make it so it's a little bit more transparent. You know what I mean? I don't really like how it's just weird. Like the Knicks suck last year, and then it's like the Pelicans got the number 1 pick, and then the Grizzlies and they're both better than the Knicks. So it's like, you know what I mean? You can't suck enough. I mean, just being a Knicks fan, we can't suck enough to get a top draft pick, and it's like we haven't been good enough to do anything just because our team construction. So give me something that provides me more transparency. That makes it a little bit more fair in my eyes. Obviously, the NBA, they want to do their things to get people in or to certain teams, but just give me competition. Give me something more transparent than the crap they're doing, where I got to watch some little short kid from Cleveland pick was it 2 or 3 years in a row they got the first pick? Like, come on, dogs. Like,
they had like four picks in like 6 years, probably.
Yeah, that didn't make any. I don't know. That was
but what you guys didn't say about this, like for the teams that don't make the playoffs, that they're gonna play games, it's gonna still bring crowds, revenue, and stuff like that. And now the 14 teams, they go home, and their fan bases, they have to watch other teams play, right? Meanwhile, you could still have them watching games. For example, for me, I never watched the first round of the playoffs. I just skip it. I just have that morning period that my Knicks are not playing in the playoffs, so I don't watch basketball then. But later in the playoffs, I'll probably watch a couple of games. But if the Knicks would be playing even for a draft pick for whatever, right, I would probably watching those games. So and that's probably most of the fans. That when their team goes out, they basically stop watching and stuff like that. That's for the casual guys that also spend money on jerseys, on gear, and on everything. So that would be a huge, percentage wise, it would be a huge proportion of revenue if they would play even for draft picks after the season, right? So
yeah, I just don't understand. Like, I think it I think you have some owners who are just lazy and like, oh, they push back against us. But for the most part, incoming players coming in, I mean, if you don't want these guys going and every time they get drafted by Indiana or whatever, they want to leave to go to LA or, play with LeBron. I mean, make it so that parity is increased, and you'll sleep. So you'll awaken some of these owners who hire their friends and don't care to come in 15 games below 500. You'll awaken some of these guys. So I think it's a good idea. But,
yeah, I think so. I want to ask Joshua, what is he said this is the media against Knicks and NBA against Knicks rhetoric that I hate. What did we say about what did we say anything about being against the Knicks? We're talking about all teams.
I don't know, man. I think he's just.
I mean, in this setup, the Knicks wouldn't even probably. They probably lose in this setup, right? I don't know what Josh is talking about.
I don't know. So I guess next to the next topic, how do you guys feel about Amare Stoudamire's triumphant position with the
return to New York?
Return to New York. I don't think this guy ever. I was so bad. He's been playing all these leagues overseas and trying to. He's always like, "Oh, I'm ready to come back." It's like, dude, I'm good. Now he's retired. Now finally retired. I hope. But I think this is not a great situation. Now, Amare Stoudamire, he's not a rah guy, but he's kind of that alpha kind of. You can't be just talking to Amare Stoudamire anyway. You know what I mean? I still remember Amare Stoudamire dunking on Michael Olowokandi and Marbury giving the stank face. That was one of the greatest dunks I've ever seen in my life. Amare Stoudamire is a man's man, but he's going to be playing with KD, who is, takes off his shoes and rubs his feet during freaking interviews, which is just weird. And then Kyrie, who thinks he's Nostradamus. And then Steve Nash, who's coming into a situation I think is terrible for a guy who hasn't coached before and is probably just going to be ignored. What do you think this is going to do? What do you think that Amare Stoudamire is going to offer anything? No, not really.
you know what? I really think it's all about. I mean, I don't know what coaching experience Amare Stoudamire has really. You know what I mean? I think it's all about Steve Nash having a friend. That's what I think.
That's the only reason. He's not going to be a defensive coordinator, that's for sure. He's not going to offensive guy. KD playing the pick and roll with Kyrie Irving. So,
right. You know what I'm saying? I really think it's all about Steve Nash. Look, you heard rumors about Mike D'Antoni, right? All people that Steve Nash had relationships with: Dirk Nowitzki, Mike D'Antoni, now Amare Stoudamire. I think it's all about Steve Nash. Like, I need a buddy.
And
I need a buddy with me.
I'm gonna go further, bro. I bet he's calling those guys and he's like, "You guys want to make some money? I got some money to spend for you guys." And he's just be like, "Okay, I can get you like $4 or $5 million. Just join me on the bench with the Nets." So,
yeah. I just this is gonna be, and again, guys, the guy I want to poach. Now, I would send somebody to go and talk to him because he left Rock Nation. He's represented himself now. He does not fit that team. He needs to play. And this is Spencer Dinwiddie. I like Spencer Dinwiddie's talent. I know he said something about the Knicks. We can come over. It's like the Godfather thing, right? It's like, is it Vito? Actually, Vito got killed then, but that's not a good example. But you come over, it's like Tony Soprano, right? You just come over, you give him the head rub, like, it's okay. We know you messed up. Come back to the family. You know what I mean? Let him come to Brooklyn, to New York Knicks, right? That Kyrie team's not going to fit you. You're going to get frustrated. You're not going to get proper playing time, right? Come to the Knicks. We don't have a point guard, but we have Tom Thibodeau. We have Mike Woodson. We have a good coaching staff. They took away the coach that you like. I know that you like because he made you better. Steve Atkins. Steve Atkins, right? So they took him away. Come over to the Knicks, play with this team. You'll be playing with guys like Mitch Robinson, RJ. You can lead and run with a young team, where we draft Vassell, whatever it may be. Even if we draft a guy like Killian Hayes, okay, play Dinwiddie a little bit more at the 2. Right? What is he, 6'5", 6'6", whatever he is? Play more at the 2, have RJ slip over to the 3, even though Spencer Dinwiddie's not a good three-point shooter, but we could find ways to try to improve that. But come over to the Knicks, because that team, Mark just said Spencer Dinwiddie is will be a development coach. Who is he developing? Who? They don't want to play Jarrett Allen. Remember last year they had issues with, they were saying DJ should play over Jarrett Allen. Now I'm pretty sure it's coming from the Kyrie camp because DJ's his guy, right? So you're gonna push up Jarrett Allen. LeVert is LeVert. He's a solid player, but I don't know in what way Amare Stoudamire is gonna make his game better because they're not the same type of player. And all those new guys, I don't remember the new guys that played in the bubble. I don't know how they fit on a team with Kyrie and KD, where it's just gonna basically be the Rockets part 2, where it's basically those two guys do use the ball up 70% of the time, and then they dish it out to other guys when the defense collapses on them. Spencer Dinwiddie, if you're listening, come over to the Knicks. Just apologize. Kiss the ring. But come on, play with us, man. Because literally, Spencer Dinwiddie's talking all this trash, right? The same way he wanted to make Brooklyn the so-called dynasty, whatever. Why not come to a dynasty that's been sleeping for a great organization that's been sleeping for many years, but it's reawakening, it seems, with Leon Rose, all these hires, and you could be the face of that. Kill your pride, go understand what you said, but come home. You should be with the Knicks, not the Brooklyn Nets. No one cares about Brooklyn Nets. You guys have Bed-Stuy in your jersey. You guys don't play in Bed-Stuy. Like, think about how blind your team is. I don't know. I
don't know.
Guillermo, about you saying, that he should apologize. You think Rondo apologized to LeBron before he went to the Lakers?
Of course he probably did. Of course he probably
did.
You understand? LeBron James is like, who LeBron James reminds me of? A less sociopathic Homelander from The Boys. Like, he'll give you a smile like, yeah, hey, man, I'm a superhero. He'd be like, you know what? Actually, yes, LeBron James is Homelander from The Boys. He'll go up to you, what Homelander does every time he goes to solve a crime, right? If they're like soldiers or cops there, he'll say, you guys are the real heroes. You guys really did it. Then he'll go and just use his eye beams and kill everybody, all that stuff behind the scenes. And he'll put the smile on and do all that stuff, but deep down he's like, yo, you better listen to me, or something. That's LeBron James. He's that type of. So I'm pretty sure Rondo did that. Like Rondo is this dude was fighting with Ray Allen on a team that won more, right? You gonna say and tell me when he sat with that lady from the Celtics and they said LeBron's my B, or
yeah.
You think LeBron doesn't remember that? LeBron is like, bro. There's an article.
I'm sure he does.
That I watch. I have insomnia, so I watch the Game 7 against the Warriors. Blah blah. There's a guy in his head who taught himself and said that he's the GOAT over Jordan, or that his finals was greater of all time because Cleveland was ecstatic that he like. LeBron James is Homelander from The Boys, man. I'm telling you, man. So, by the way, The Boys, I like that show, by the way. But yeah, man. I guess another article we could talk about, a fun article for the end of this episode, is your boy, the ever petty but necessary Shaq, who came after. I don't know what you call Dwight Howard. He's not anybody's favorite anything because Dwight Howard just bugs me, but. Shaq came after Dwight Howard, and he says, Dwight Howard was trying to do his fake cry, his ugly, color purple cry on Instagram and say, oh, to everybody out there, man, don't give up on your dreams. You can do it. An emotional Howard said to his viewers as part of the Instagram feed. He says, I swear, just keep fighting. And then the Big Diesel was on, I don't know what show. Was it the NBA Countdown? Whatever it was. He said, you know what I don't like about a lot of players? Shaq asked during his guest appearance, a lot of players on their little Instagram accounts bragging that they were the reason they got the championship. Post one pick and sit your A down. Shut your A up. of Dwight's post-game celebration. You ain't do nothing. I will actually hold on. Let me just play this. Hopefully I don't get in trouble. Let me see. Can you guys let me know if you guys can hear this? But yeah, I'll play this.
Give up on your dreams. Give up your doing. I swear, just keep fighting. I swear to God, don't ever give up on yourself.
I know what I don't like as a player, though.
What's that?
So a lot of players on their little Instagram bragging like they were the reason they got the championship. I ain't gonna say no names.
There was a lot of that going on.
I ain't gonna say no name.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
Sit your ass down. You didn't do nothing. Stop it.
But I already know what you're talking about.
You know it
I
too.
know you know what I'm talking about. Stop it.
There were,
Runner.
by the way,
Bandwagon jumper. Stop it. Stop it. Don't be talking to me like you know players. Sit your ass down.
by the way, Lakers front office.
Post one pick and sit your ass down.
By the way, Lakers front office.
Follow your dreams.
Stop it.
You ain't do nothing.
Seriously.
Wow.
He played a role.
Oh, I love Shaq, man. Shaq is, oh my gosh, I love Shaq, man. That's my guy. Like, is there a little hater in him? Because near the end of Shaq's career, he was front running, but he did win chips in his prime with the Lakers and what's saying. But he did leave. Well, he left the Magic, you could say, because they didn't offer him the max on that stuff. Even though I think he had his heart set on the Lakers, but the Lakers weren't doing anything at the time. So I actually agree with him because the thing that bugs me, I think the thing that with Shaq and why Shaq and Kobe didn't like a guy like Dwight Howard is because they saw how great he was, talent-wise. It's like, yo, the mold of you, like, bro, you came out of your mother's womb sculpted. Like, the dude has shoulders from, like, China to freaking Brooklyn. Like, dogs, you are a beast. But you never took the game seriously enough to take your team to the next level. Obviously, went to the finals, I believe it was 2009. You all remember Courtney Lee missing that layup that could have won game one or tied up. I can't remember. But Dwight Howard never exuded, I'm dominant, and you guys should follow me. When he went to the Lakers, he went to the Rockets, there's always this soft, and this guy's putting up double-doubles, but he never improved. Remember, he worked with Olajuwon, and he never really improved his moves past the, same, just grab it, maybe one spin move and dunk it. And now he's there crying about follow your dreams. It's like, dogs, you are a cast-off that you – and don't get me wrong. You went to the Hornets, you went to Atlanta, and you still put up double-doubles, but you weren't a leader on your team. You just got –
I think that was the problem. Him, leaving the Magic where he was the guy. And no matter if he would do something wrong, he was still going to be the star there. And he skipped on that, and from that point on, his career was downhill. Every team he went, he was even worse and worse. You didn't hear about him even.
Yeah.
So it's
the way that he approached his career. I kind of liken it to Joel Embiid a little bit. I don't know, maybe Joel Embiid is a little more, works a little harder or whatever. Dwight Howard, I just felt like didn't approach the game seriously enough to go where he probably could have went with his career. You know what I mean? And I feel like Joel Embiid is kind of the same person, and Joel Embiid still has time to change, right? But I feel like that's why, I was with my daughter, my son, I was like, man, Dwight Howard's about to win the championship. I didn't want him to win the championship because I just didn't like the way that he approached the game. And I didn't want him to get a chip, he didn't approach the game the way that I thought he should have. And if he did, he would have been like dominant. He really had the ability to be dominant. Even though he didn't have a lot of post moves and couldn't shoot from the outside and the game was changing, he was so powerful, dominant on the inside. I think he still would have been effective, and obviously he could play defense, big and strong. I mean, he was, he had it in his hands. He just couldn't take the game serious enough, I think.
Yeah, and Joshua Smalls wants to fight today, man. First of all, no one said that Dwight Howard won't be a Hall of Famer. First of all, the NBA Hall of Fame is probably the easiest Hall of Fame to get out of any sport. So everybody makes almost. If you're good, really, really good, you're gonna make the Hall of Fame in NBA. That's one thing. Dwight Howard, yes, he has these stats to put up. That's the whole point. For a Hall of Fame talent, you could be a Hall of Famer and still underachieve. The funniest thing is, Shaq underachieved. He's one of the greatest centers of all time. People literally write that Shaq could have been he could have been top 5 greatest players of all time. Remember, Shaq didn't take care of his body well, especially during the late in the Remember, they wanted him to bulk up to take on a lot of guys in the West, but then he started to allow that weight to kind of fluctuate and get out of hand. And people said Shaq should have won 7 championships. That's how dominant and good he was skill wise. So even Shaq, so there's levels to this, but at least Shaq is still here, right? Shaq won championships. You could say largely on the back of his time. Obviously, he had Phil Jackson, he had Kobe, but when you look at those championship teams, especially with the Lakers, you're like, Shaq was there. That one championship won the Miami Heat, as good as Dwayne Wade was, and as much as the NBA wanted the Heat to win, because there were some questionable calls against the Mavericks, Shaq was still a vital part of them winning. Dwight Howard, yes, he played great defense in the finals, but it's a guy who was not one of the main cogs on that team. The main cogs on the team was LeBron James and AD. And Dwight Howard, as great as he is, think about this. You take it. There's no way in hell that you would think back in 2004, whenever he got drafted, Dwight Howard, that is, that you would say he would need a LeBron James and an AD to win his first championship. His first championship. Think about that. As a dominant guy that on his bad day, he'd give you a double-double when he's on the team by himself. He needs LeBron James and AD to win the championship. So it's not people hating on him. It's that, again, when you see people who are supposed to be great, you get mad that they didn't achieve even really the majority of that greatness, right? This is why people love Kobe. This is why reason why Kobe's not a top. You argue sitting there and say that Kobe's not a top 10 player, but Kobe approached the game like every game was his last, except for that one game with the Suns where he didn't shoot a shot. But I don't know what was going on. That was a game 6, whatever. But every game you saw Kobe go, like there are jokes, there are memes about Kobe. 4 guys are open and he's shooting against the opposing teams, all 5 of their players. I saw memes of Kobe when he had that the ankle or whatever was the leg injury, and it was basically Kobe with no legs out there on the court, still giving 47. It's like because it's like this dude will work to like he's to the bitter bone of his body, right? Dwight Howard, it feels like he left something on the court. So people aren't thinking. It's like, come on, dog. And so
I think what about Shaq's career. I think after he got those rings, his tenure in Phoenix, the Celtics, even in Cleveland, I think it was more for fun for him. He got the cash, he got the rings. It was like, okay, I'm just gonna play because I'm able to play. So I'm not gonna end my career at 32 or wherever. So he just those last years he was just playing for fun. I think that's why he wasn't going for that pure dominance that like you said Kobe went. He was playing like he was able to win the chip in his last season. So
and Joshua Smalls, man, you're throwing a lot of L's tonight. So you said the big man faded away because of the evolution of 3-point shot. But what about guys like Jokic?
Right.
What about guys like Embiid, who you can argue and say, he's kind of guys like Bam Adebayo. It's not that the big man has gone away; it's that the way you utilize them, right? And even now, this year, the people who won the championship disprove your point. I just saw an article where they're talking about the big man coming back, where literally they want to use the big man. Like they said, should teams start basically getting these bulked up front courts to basically rim protect and dominate teams? When you talk about zone defense, that Lakers team, one of the reasons why they're so uber dominant because they can send their guards out on the perimeter to hound you on the zone. You try to come in. Now they have a guy like Dwight and AD playing in the paint. Like, unless you have dead-eye shooters, which the Nuggets, their role players couldn't do it. The Miami Heat couldn't do it. Unless you have dead-eye shooters, you're going to lose against teams that have athletic bigs like that all the time. Like, the Lakers actually disproving your point with regards to bigs. It's how you utilize. Now, obviously, we're not going back to the Ewing era where you dump it down to Ewing and he does the big man dribble. Like, I kind of missed it, but – you know what I'm saying? But again, even with those guys, the softer skills of the big man, it's Jokic has an unstoppable shot where literally he's doing the Dwight the Nowitzki where he's leaning back and shooting rainbow shots and you can't defend it. Like Jokic and Murray might be one of these guys that might take the West next year, given if the Lakers kind of fall off. So I mean, come on, Joshua.
I think the key, Josh, is that you have a big man that can defend out on the perimeter.
Yeah.
Right. Play some kind of defense that's out on the perimeter. I'm not talking about defending guards, but you're shooting your bigs that can shoot. If they can defend out on the perimeter and knock down the mid range, it doesn't necessarily have to be that they extend it all the way out to the three, right? They knock down the mid range, then they can help spread the floor, open up lanes for guards to drive a little bit. But if they can defend, if you got 3-point shooting centers and they can defend them, I think you're good. You know what I mean? Because the Lakers dominated Miami because they were big and they had bigs that could go out on the perimeter and defend. So you had Anthony Davis guarding Jimmy Butler.
Yes. And I remember me and Sim were talking about this after that game. Was it game 4 they won? The Heat won? They switched AD onto Jimmy Butler. And then I remember it was either game 3 or game 4, right? The Heat won. And then we were talking about the next game where Butler was shut down, and Sim was like, "Yo, you got to try to make it happen somewhere." And I'm like, "Bro, you have AD on you. How the hell does Butler make it happen?" Now, Butler did because they won one of the next game, like game 5 or whatever it was, and Butler had a ridiculous game. But again, Butler had to be creative with creating space on space on AD. I mean, the guy was exhausted. Now they have that meme where they show Jimmy Butler where he's huffing and puffing, and they make it seem like he's like a mechanic because his face and he got the hair and that stuff. But you have to go through hell and back to face against a guy like AD. And don't forget, they also had JaVale McGee coming off the bench to play minutes, rebounding and do it. So the big man, again, the best teams, Vogel, we talked about this, how they play their zone. The smart coaches find ways to use what they got or find ways to offset. Remember, all the craze was the Warriors, right? And you guys shoot the 3-point shot, the perimeter players, and everybody got to be like Steph Curry. NBA goes in cycles, right? Okay, now you want to play small. Okay, we'll have athletic bigs to be able to come out and defend that. Then the NBA is going to switch back to, okay, now we need the big men again. So the NBA, I don't know if it evolves per se, but it's like this. It's like a spectrum, right? I think everything's kind of been done under the sun in the NBA. It's kind of just taking pieces from that spectrum and put on different parts of the board. We got Mark in here, but he might be frozen. Yeah, it's like a half. Yeah, he's frozen. But I don't know what's happening. But yeah, you guys had anything else? I mean, that's all I really had with the clutch points.
I have something. I don't know if you guys heard it, that the Lakers filed for getting Luol's Deng contract off the books. Did you guys hear it?
Luol Deng was still in the books.
He's supposed to be for the next 2 seasons. He's supposed to they're supposed to have a hit on the salary cap. And they filed that because he has a career-ending injury, that they want that salary off the books. But after, them stretching his contract, he played 22 games in Minnesota for Tibbs. So how are they even, if the NBA gives them that salary release on the cap hit, I'm gonna be mad.
So okay, so they amnestied him.
Yeah, they amnestied him and they paid him 2 years, right? He went somewhere else. He went to Minnesota. He played 22 games for Tibbs, and a year later, after that season, he the Lakers filed the paperwork for them to get off that salary cap hit.
So when a player's amnestied, right? So I amnesty a player.
Yeah, he can go wherever he wants.
He can go wherever he wants.
Yeah, they just wanted the salary cap off their hit because they're saying that he has a career-ending injury, and
right. So let me ask you though, say I got to pay him $5 million a year for the next 5 years, you pick him up for $2 million.
Yeah.
Right. Do I still have to pay him $5 million, or do I pay him $3 million?
You pay him only the difference, but the salary cap hit is still the
right. So what I'm wondering is because he can't play for another team because it's a career-ending injury and he can't play for another team, is that why they're saying, look, there's not a chance that he can go for another team and we pay the difference? So, clear it off. I mean, he's still going to get his money.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying. But, for me, I don't care if he gets the money, if he doesn't, right? He probably is going to get it. My problem is if the NBA allows them to get his contract off the books. And you know why they want it, right? Because they can't afford to get anyone on the Lakers roster now, because they're going to be capped out if they sign AD. And, Ronda is going to leave. KCP is looking for a deal. So they're going to lose plenty of that squad. That's why Ronda's a free agent. He's not extending. So, he's looking for a deal. KCP is rumored to be looking around the league for a deal. So we got two guys. Every Bradley is going to come back, right? But, Dion Waiters, J.R. Smith, those guys were only pickups for the season. So they're going to lose, plenty of those guys from the rotation that were playing minutes. And, that's why I'm going to be mad if they allow him, because that's another, at least a mid-level exception, right? For $6 million. And how LeBron's going to praise those guys just to get them on the squad. Okay, just take $2.5 million. We're going to win a chip. So that's three guys for that salary. But I'm not going for it.
Yeah, we discussed Rondo on the Big Freezy. By the way, Big Freezy, we have an ongoing series where he's building up how to build a championship team. We're on like year 2 or something like that. But we did bringing Rondo to the Knicks. Now that he has a championship, he's probably sick of LeBron at this point. So, because I know Sim's face lit up when Rondo.
Yeah, because if Rondo, he'll probably go back to the Lakers. But if they couldn't afford him or something happened, I would love to have him come to the Knicks.
Yeah,
I was the one when we were looking for free agent point guards. I mentioned Rondo. So he's one of the best guys, and if he wouldn't command that much money, bro, I would start him for the Knicks even.
Again,
over Frank.
two guys I wanted badly in terms of veteran stopgap. Three guys. Yeah. CP3, which would kind of be tough. Dragic, but he got hurt, and he might be trying to go back to the Heat. Unless they bring Giannis somehow. And Pat Riley did mention, obviously, I'm happy with the team, blah, blah, but any way to improve the team, which can be interpreted anyway, we don't know. But if they bring a guy like Giannis in, a guy like Dragic might be on the back burner. But that's one guy I definitely wanted for the Knicks. And then Rondo. I'm not sure Rondo can play major minutes. He fit perfectly that Lakers team because he was actually hitting threes, but he doesn't have to play 30-some minutes a night. But if he could split time with a guy like Frank or whoever we draft, say, even if we draft a guy like Killian Hayes, have a guy like Rondo be able to impart with. And Rondo is a on-court teacher, and Rondo is no nonsense. I think he'd work well with Thibodeau. I think Thibodeau, when Thibodeau smiles like a freaking video game character. I could see him loving a guy like Rondo on the court who can command where guys need to be. Excellent passer. Rondo is a sickeningly good facilitator. You get a guy like Killian Hayes, who, I have this argument with a dude on Twitter named Rick War. He's actually on Sportscaster too. Or he's on Freezy's kind of telecast. And he loves Killian Hayes, but Killian Hayes to me needs a lot of the pick and roll, right? He's not a guy who, I think ISO, he could create a little bit of space to shoot a shot, but he's not even perfect in that regard. So he needs a lot of pick and roll. Rondo came in and showed him how to basically, how to catch guys in a misstep, not just to step back and shoot a shot, but to how to drive, run the pick and roll with your big man, when to pass up to the rim, when to pass up to. I think he'd be astronomically great for the Knicks. And if that means that you have to give him a big contract for the next 2 years, I'm not saying a huge max out, but you give him more than what the Lakers are offering. He already has his championship. You know what I mean? Why not be the guy to kind of slowly bring the Knicks back into prominence? Try to sell him on the Knicks, try to make the playoffs this year. I don't think it will happen. But again, if you get a guy like him, Killian Hayes, Mitch, RJ in the East, you know what I mean? And Rondo say he has I think Rondo, if we're a 9th or 10th team with maybe a few weeks ago, we could get to that 8th spot. I think you might see, some of the best from Rondo. So that's just me. It might be wishful thinking, but I think Rondo would be.
Yeah, I think it's definitely wishful thinking. But if you would get a guy like Rondo on the squad, Julius Randle is gonna have to, Rondo's gonna command respect. He has a champion with the Lakers, with the Celtics. He's not, a young guy anymore, but he would sort up and put the team in their lanes definitely. And
you got the coach that can deal with him.
Yeah, and I think he wasn't Tibbs on the Celtics when Rondo was winning the chip. Yeah,
Yeah, it was defensive.
Was he? Okay.
He was.
Yeah.
So you got the coach that can and knows how to deal with them. That would be great for the Knicks, I think.
Yeah,
I think
we
that
gotta
would be-
start that
Josh
rumor already on the Twitter that they have a relationship. So
Y'all like
Rondo's opting out.
Here goes Josh. Here goes Josh.
so wait, y'all like Rondo even though he can't shoot well. He shot well in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Better than what he shot before. And the thing about Rondo, even if he couldn't shoot, his point guard play would elevate our team
Right.
astronomically. I think Josh just wants to find any.
But Josh, what is your point?
I don't get it.
I'm
Oh, he
trying
can't
to figure out what the point is.
Is this the Josh that's with us on the NBK?
Yeah.
Is that him? That's Josh.
Yeah, that's Josh. Yeah.
Oh,
Josh.
yeah, he's trolling us. That's why.
Yeah, I think it's just a question. Y'all know it's not a question. We know you're trying to come. Like you want to. Kyrie Irving could shoot better than Rondo. Would you want Kyrie Irving in the Knicks? I know you like his talent, but a flat earther. Come on, man. But salute to everybody that came in, guys. Like, hit subscribe, all that goodness. You got Sim MBK front stoop, and you got at 3BL. I don't know if they covered that Giants game yesterday.
Yeah, we covered it last night.
Where your boy Daniel Jones.
Matter of fact, Josh came in last night. Josh came into the show last night. It was a good show.
Yeah. Well, I'm rooting for the Giants because we don't need y'all to take Trevor Lawrence. Y'all literally are in the contention for the playoffs. Y'all have one win. Y'all, the NFC East is trash. But
if we would have won, we would have been in second place behind Dallas, and only in second place because we lost to Dallas. If we would have won, we would have been in second place.
That's absolutely amazing, man.
I mean, like we really blew a chance. We really blew a chance because we played Philly. We just played Philly, and we should have won the game, right? And then we play. Forgot who we play next. Can't even think. But then
Washington.
No, we play. So we play.
Seattle.
Now, who do we play before? No, we play someone before. We play the Seahawks later. We play Monday night. We play. I can't even think who it is.
You mean your next game?
The next game, yeah.
Oh, you play the Bucks. You guys are gonna get
the Bucks. That's right. We play the Bucks Monday night, right? So. Maybe, we thought that was going to happen with the Rams, and we were right there with the Rams. We got smacked by San Francisco.
Rams are they're like a pretty team, but it's hollow. They can lose at any. I don't know what it is.
See.
The Tampa Bay Bucks. The way
we're gonna find out.
Aaron Rodgers. There's no way Daniel Jones. I think the Bucks have the number one defense.
We'll find out. Listen, the Giants have been playing. They played well against everybody except for San Francisco. Not well. They've been competitive. I'll say that, competitive. But I had them marked down as a loss to the Bucks anyway, right? But if they would,
why are you even no hope?
No. Listen. They blew their chance. They had it against Philadelphia. They should have won, right? So. They had 4 games. They played Philly, Tampa Bay, Washington, and then Philly. If they would have beat Philly, lost to Tampa Bay, then they would have played Washington and Philly again. This is a stretch where they had their chance to take a hold of the NFC East. And they blew it in that game versus Philly. In Philly, they had an 11-point lead. In the fourth quarter, they blew it in Philly. You know what I'm saying? If they would have won that game, there's a good chance that they beat Washington again. There's a good chance that they can beat Philly, right? They would have had a stronghold on the NFC East. They would have played Dallas the last game of the season. And then, they blew it. They blew that game right there. They blew it.
So is Evan Ingram the greatest Giants player of all time now? Or how do you guys feel about
You should ask Isaiah, bro.
Yeah. Isaiah hates me.
You guys to win. I don't want you guys to take Trevor Lawrence, so I need you guys. Evan Ingram, 36. You drop that ball, bro.
Isaiah hates him. Josh don't like him either. Nobody likes him.
Didn't he do
You
good?
know, I'm just saying. I like him. I'm cool with him. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm
You
upset that he
know him,
dropped
because
his
you
ass.
personally know him, right? You personally know him, right?
No.
That's why Sim likes Randall, because I know Sim and Randall
Look.
each other. Because this dude, when Randall was pirouetting, was ballerina crap.
It's not like I am a super duper Randall fan. I just think that people came down harshly on him.
Okay, so
I am a Frank Ntilikina fan.
hold up, Sim. Have you ever met Julius Randle in your life? Can you just be honest?
No. Nope. No.
This
Never
is
met.
Sim. This is remember, guys. This is Sim I had. Wait, what? You said wait.
I met Frank. I met Mitch. I met Kevin Knox.
Because this is the same Sim. Well, I guess you don't like Mitch. Because this is the same Sim that had Mitch's former agent come up to the sky, whatever, the sky bridge.
I don't want to talk about that guy.
You say I want to talk about that?
No, I don't know what's over that guy. I don't know what happened.
He gave Sim like a wooden golden kazoo. It was like, I don't know.
Harmonica. It's a harmonica.
Oh, harmonica. I'm sorry. I said a kazoo. My bad. Kazoo is stuff you get for like little kids parties. My bad. Yeah, I don't know what that was all about. But look, guys, I apologize for keeping you guys here so long, man. So much stuff to cover. Random stuff in the NBA. Again, support everybody's channel. That Ain't Rap Podcast, Triborough. Support Marquise Walker. All of Sim's channels. Uncle Free's channels. Andy N's channels. On Sportscast.
Exactly.
Good.
It's not that many of mine channels, bro.
You said what?
Huh?
It's not that many of mine channels. I got only one with like 3 videos. So.
Exactly. But hey, we had a good video yesterday. Talking about the NBA. Me, even I had to leave slightly early. Was it Step Back 3? I think is his name on.
Step Back 3.
So guys, please go support it. It's cheap. No money. I don't ask you for no money or anything. No cash apps or whatever. Just go support. Hit the likes. Help out the algorithms and
Yeah. The only thing I want to add in there, it doesn't really matter for sportscaster, but when this channel that you're on right now on YouTube, once it gets up to 1,000 and he's able to monetize and everything, right? Watch the entirety of his commercials. If a commercial comes on the video, watch the whole thing. It doesn't cost you anything but time. Just watch the entire commercial, right? And, when it comes on in the beginning, if there's a commercial in the middle, just watch the entire commercial instead of skipping it. It can only help him out.
Wow.
All it does is help out Legion and Knicks podcast.
I had no idea, man. Wow. Thank you
man.
for that, man. Thank you for that tidbit. And guys, we'll be here Sunday covering the Jets. Wow. I don't know why I would do that. I'm not going to cover the Jets. I'll talk about them. But yeah, guys, salute. And let me know, because tomorrow I'm thinking about covering some soccer games. So for any of my soccer fans, definitely the El Clasico tomorrow, Manchester, Real Madrid versus Barcelona. Both of them seem stuck because they're not Manchester United, but obviously I'm joking. And then I'll be covering Manchester United tomorrow versus Chelsea. That's a big game. And I might be also covering the Khabib Nurmagomedov fight versus Justin Gaeth. So guys, let me know if you want me to cover those. That would be fun. But till next time, salute. God bless and take care, man. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.